In other news and overseas tonight, an American aircraft carrier and 3 destroyers have arrived in the Middle East.
The president says the U.S. is taking new action related to the Strait of Hormuz.
4:41 local time. Strait of Hormuz. T-minus 11 minutes until impact. 11 hypersonic missiles. Nearly 5,000 American sailors and aviators in the crosshairs. Every second counts. This is the story of 19 minutes that nearly set the Gulf on fire. The sea is almost flat. Dawn light is just beginning to bleed over the mountains of southern Iran, turning the water between Bandar Abbas and Musandam a dull sheet of steel. Oil tankers move through the traffic separation lanes in disciplined silence. Civilian radar returns blink. Navigation lights fade. Out here, the strait narrows into one of the most dangerous choke points on Earth, barely 21 miles across at its tightest, with shipping lanes so compressed that a supercarrier feels less like a king of the ocean and more like a giant moving through a hallway. And right in that hallway sits a U.S. carrier strike group, a Nimitz-class carrier at the center, 3 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers screening ahead in a beam, an attack submarine somewhere unseen beneath the black water, an E-2D Hawkeye already orbiting to the south, feeding a stream of tracks into the network, FA-18EF Super Hornets on alert, 2 F-35Cs airborne farther out, quiet, watching, their sensors drinking in everything. Imagine you're on that flight deck, jet fuel in the air, salt on your face, the deck still wet from the night washdown, yellow shirts moving fast, but not panicked. Below you, magazines packed with standard missiles, ESSMs, ram rounds, phalanx ammunition. Beneath the island in the Combat Information Center, watch teams stare into glowing displays because everybody in this region knows one truth. In Hormuz, geography is a weapon, and the politics around it are worse. To the north sits Iran's missile belt, coastal batteries, mobile launchers, hardened tunnels, radar sites spread across Bandar Abbas, Keshem Island, Abu Musa, and deeper inland toward the Zagros. To the south, Gulf monarchies host American aircraft, intelligence nodes, and fuel. Above all of it hangs a modern fact of war. No one fires one shot expecting one answer anymore. If a carrier is targeted here, the response won't be symbolic. It will be systematic. That's what makes this morning so dangerous. Because on the Iranian side of the water, inside underground facilities and camouflaged revetments, a decision has already been made. Not a warning shot, not a harassment move. A decapitation attempt. 11 high-speed anti-ship weapons, marketed domestically as hypersonic, launched in a staggered multi-axis profile designed to fracture the defensive picture, saturate Aegis, and prove that even America's most powerful floating airfield can be put on its knees inside the Gulf. From Tehran's perspective, the calculation feels logical. Strike fast, strike in the narrowest water, use maneuvering weapons with compressed flight times, force the Americans into defensive chaos, maybe cripple the carrier, maybe mission kill it, maybe just get one warhead through and let the cameras do the rest. One burning deck, one smoking hole, one image broadcast across the region. That alone could shift deterrence, shake markets, and rewrite every naval conversation from Washington to Beijing. Now shift to the enemy's view. Iranian commanders believe the carrier group is predictable because transit narrows its maneuver options. They believe coastal clutter, civilian shipping, and terrain masking will complicate tracking. They believe speed is their shield. 11 missiles from multiple launch points. Some lofted high, some depressed, some timed seconds apart so American commanders face the oldest problem in warfare. Too many decisions, not enough time. And for one short moment, they believe they've engineered the perfect trap. But there's a problem with their plan. Actually, several. What they didn't account for was not just radar, not just missiles, not just American firepower. It was the network, the invisible architecture tying together space-based infrared warning, airborne early warning, passive sensors, electronic intelligence, nice shipboard combat systems, and shooters that don't need to see with their own eyes because another platform is already seeing for them. They planned to overwhelm a ship. They were about to run into an ecosystem, and ecosystems kill. 441 becomes 442. Far above the Gulf, infrared sensors detect sudden heat blooms from the Iranian coast. Not one, multiple, a launch pattern. The cue is transmitted before the missiles have even fully cleared their canisters. Seconds later, the E-2D Hawkeye refines the track picture. Aegis systems aboard the destroyers begin calculating predicted paths. Electronic support measures light up with emissions spikes from fire control radars and communications relays ashore. The carrier doesn't just know something launched. It knows where, how many, and roughly what kind of kill chain is now active against it. 4 seconds. That's all. 4 seconds from first launch signature to the first alert in American combat systems. A klaxon rips through the flagship. General quarters, general quarters. All hands man your battle stations. Now you're there. You're inside CIC, the room lit red. Voices clipped, no wasted words. A tactical action officer calls the raid. Track numbers populate. Heading, speed, altitude bands. The destroyer to the north reports firm ballistic quality track behavior with terminal maneuver indicators. Another ship flags 2 lower-profile returns emerging later, suggesting a mixed approach. No one is debating labels. Hypersonic, quasi-ballistic, maneuvering re-entry vehicle. In that room, the only label that matters is simple: inbound. The captain gets the first summary in under 20 seconds. 11 likely anti-ship missiles, multiple launch origins, estimated time to terminal engagement, under 9 minutes. Could you make that call? Because from this point on, every command competes with physics. Turn too early and you expose gaps in the screen. Hold too long and you stay on the enemy's preferred axis. Launch too few interceptors and you gamble with 100,000 tons of sovereign American steel. Launch too many and you burn through magazines in the opening exchange. The order comes clean. Execute layered defense, break the kill chain, prepare counterstrike, and the whole strike group moves like one organism. The carrier begins hard maneuvering inside the narrow lane, assisted by escorts widening their geometry to create overlapping interceptor baskets. The northern destroyer takes primary ballistic engagement responsibility. The eastern escort prepares for leakers. Another ship activates electronic warfare, throwing out decoys and false signatures, trying to make the carrier appear elsewhere in the sea clutter. On the flight deck, crews sprint to launch the ready section. In the air, the 2 F-35Cs are pushed outward to expand sensing and hunt the surviving launch chain. The Iranian missiles keep coming. Minute 1. All 11 are confirmed airborne. In minute 2, the first 3 arc high enough for clean Aegis solution. Their speed is brutal. Their maneuver logic even worse. They are not flying straight like textbook ballistic targets. They weave, adjust, dip, climb. The idea is simple. Make the intercept window smaller than the defender's confidence. The Americans answer with Standard Missile 6. Hatches snap open across the destroyers. Vertical launch cells erupt in white flame. The first wave of SM-6s tears upward, then bends into the dark like spears kicked by God. On the displays, blue lines race toward red tracks. No one cheers. Not yet. Everybody in that room knows intercept geometry against high-speed maneuvering targets is a knife fight, done at ranges measured in dozens of miles and decisions measured in heartbeats. 1 missile, then 3, then 6. Then the sky erupts. At high altitude, the first collision happens almost too fast for the eye to comprehend. There is no movie fireball, just a hard flash, a bloom of fragmented heat, and then a red track disappears from the screen. Kill 1. A second Iranian weapon jinks late, trying to force the interceptor wide. The SM-6 corrects. Another flash, another breakup, kill 2, but the third survives the first shot. Re-engage, comes the order. A second Standard launches. The ship vibrates with it. Sailors feel the odor through steel decks and bulkheads. The interceptor climbs, rolls, dives, then contact. The threat shatters into a cloud of incandescent fragments falling toward the Gulf like a broken constellation. 3 down, 8 still inbound, and now the attack changes shape. The next group comes in lower and flatter, exploiting the cluttered radar horizon around civilian traffic and coastal reflections. This is where integrated defense earns its name. The E-2D sees what one ship cannot. The F-35Cs contribute passive tracks without giving away their own positions. Data pours into the Aegis picture. Engagement authority cascades. But the strike group is no longer just reacting. It is hunting the raid. Minute 4, second engagement zone. ESSMs stand ready. SM-6s continue firing. 1 Iranian missile descends sharply, trying to ride the confusion of merchant traffic. An American destroyer cuts through the noise, classifies, commits. 2 interceptors leave the cells in a paired shot doctrine. First one misses by inches in the chaos of terminal maneuver. Second one doesn't. The target comes apart over the water, showering pieces across the wake of a tanker several miles away. 4 down. Another pair presses from the northeast. Fast, angled, smartly timed. They are trying to cross the defensive sectors and split shipboard attention. The eastern escort engages one with SM-6. Splash. The second continues, now the most dangerous object in the Gulf, range collapsing. High velocity obscene. You're in that CIC now, and everyone feels it. No grand strategy, no politics. Just range numbers dropping and the sound of men and women breathing through clenched jaws. At 22 miles, an ESSM salvo punches up. At 17 miles, the target maneuvers again. At 12 miles, the first ESSM misses. At 9 miles, the second fuses close enough to tear off guidance surfaces. The missile does not vanish. It breaks trajectory, dives, slams into the sea less than 4 miles from the carrier's starboard quarter, throwing up a column of water tall enough to be seen from the island. 5 down, 6 remain. And this is where most people misunderstand modern naval war. It is not one glorious shield. It is layers, brutal, redundant mathematical layers, space sensors, airborne warning, ship radar, cooperative engagement, then long-range intercept, medium-range intercept, point defense, decoys, maneuver, electronic attack, human training holding the whole machine together when perfect data stops being perfect. Minute 6. The third wave enters the meat of the defense. 2 missiles separate vertically, one climbing to complicate fire control, one dropping low. The high flyer is met by a Northern destroyer's SM-6 and disappears in a clean hit-to-kill flash. The low flyer survives longer, slicing toward the carrier group like a blade skipping across black glass. Another destroyer takes it, ESSM first, then RAM. Then finally, when the geometry closes into the ugliest possible zone, the Phalanx CIWS wakes up. That sound is unforgettable. A mechanical scream, 20mm rounds pouring into the dawn so fast it becomes a solid line of orange. The missile enters the wall. For a fraction of a second, it's still there. Then it isn't. The remains cartwheel into the sea in burning pieces. 7 down. How long has this taken? Less time than most people spend choosing breakfast. But there is no relief because the final 4 are the best coordinated of the lot. These are the weapons Iranian planners expected to matter most, delayed to exploit depleted magazines and overloaded crews. They approach from wider spread axes, likely fed by real-time coastal tracking before American jamming started cutting those links apart. This is the enemy's peak confidence. This is also where the plan dies, because while Iran believed it was saturating ships, American systems were already mapping the entire attack architecture behind the missiles: launch zones, relay nodes, radar emissions, command bunkers. No mobile transporter erector launchers trying to relocate. The missiles were the spear point. The real target list was everything that threw the spear. Minute 7. One more SM-6 intercepts high over the Gulf. 8 down. Minute 8. Another inbound is fooled by electronic deception and drifts just enough off the true carrier signature for a destroyer to engage it cleanly. 9 down. Minute 8, 36 seconds. The 10th missile survives deeper than any before it, sea skimming in terminal descent, weaving fast enough to make the screen feel smaller than it is. The carrier's escorts throw everything at it. RAM launches, miss. Another. Proximity burst. Partial damage. Still coming. The Phalanx opens. Tracers cut the air. Then a final hard flash less than 2 miles out. Debris rains into the water, some pieces still skipping like flat stones. By 10 down. 1 remains, and 1 is enough to change history. Silence doesn't exist in combat, but there is a kind of mental silence when every person locks onto the same track. The final missile is descending from a sharper angle, perhaps the one Iranian planners trusted most. Faster, cleaner. A late-game killer meant to arrive after nerves are frayed and magazines are lighter. Could it get through? For 3 seconds, that answer is yes. Then the Northern destroyer, the same ship that took the opening ballistic quality shots, fires again. Last clean basket, last geometry. The SM-6 climbs, adjusts, meets the target in a white fracture of light over the eastern approaches. The final missile vanishes. 11 launched, 11 defeated. No impact on the carrier, no mission kill, no burning deck for the cameras, just smoke, debris, and the sudden realization on the Iranian side that they have not bloodied an American carrier. They have exposed their own launch network. And now comes the part the title remembers. The 19-minute response. Not rage, not symbolism, an execution. The moment the last inbound track is killed, the defensive battle becomes offensive sequencing. The strike group commander does not need to ask what doctrine says about attempted anti-ship missile attacks from fixed and mobile coastal infrastructure. He needs only to decide scale. The recommendation comes fast. Immediate suppression of launch-capable assets, radar nodes, communications relays, and maritime targeting systems involved in the strike. Goal: deny repeat fire, deny propaganda, deny future capability. Authorization is granted. Minute 10. Tomahawk mission packages upload from escorts and the submerged attack submarine. Pre-planned aim points are modified with live sensor inputs from the Hawkeye, F-35Cs, and national systems. Bandar Abbas radar sites. Suspected launch staging areas on Keshem. Communications nodes tying coastal batteries to higher headquarters. Fuel points. Missile transporter exits near hardened tunnels. Minute 11. The carrier launches the first counter-strike package. 4 F-35Cs, 6 F/A-18E/F Super Hornets, 2 EA-18G Growlers. The deck becomes violence in choreography. Catapults thunder. Jets vanish into the light one after another. Not a battle, not a test. A calculated demonstration of what happens when you reveal your position and fail. Minute 12. Tomahawks leave their cells. The destroyers ripple them out in disciplined sequence. And each launch, a rising pillar of white flame. Beneath the surface, the submarine contributes its own salvo. Dozens of missiles spread low over the sea, then turn north, terrain following and silent, except for the sound they will make at the end. Minute 13. American electronic warfare begins blinding what survived. Growlers jam search radars, cyber and electronic attacks suppress data links. Iranian operators who expected triumph now see screens bloom with noise, false returns, and dead sectors. Mobile launch crews trying to relocate receive fragmented orders or none at all. Minute 14. The F-35Cs reach the forward edge of the fight. This is what Iranian planners got wrong. They thought the engagement ended at missile launch. They forgot the carrier air wing exists to extend the battle inland. The F-35Cs use sensor fusion to identify hot launch positions, radar masts, and fleeing support vehicles. Target quality tracks are pushed back through the network in seconds. Super Hornets behind them arm for the strike. Imagine you're in one of those cockpits. Below you, the Iranian coast. Mountains dark against the sunrise, roads laced with moving vehicles that all suddenly look guilty. Somewhere down there, crews who launched 11 missiles are trying to fold equipment, hide under overpasses, disappear into tunnels. Your hands are steady on the stick, heart pounding. This is real. Minute 15. First weapons away. Standoff munitions and anti-radiation missiles race toward emitters and launch support sites. A radar on Keshem shuts down too late. Hit. Naida Coastal Command node near Bandar Abbas takes the first Tomahawk impact seconds later. Concrete and antenna fields blasted apart. Fuel and support vehicles ignite in chain reactions that mark launch corridors with black smoke. Minute 16. Second wave. More Tomahawks. More air-launched weapons. The attack is methodical. Radar first. Communications second. Launchers third. Storage and reload infrastructure next. This is how modern retaliation works when it is done by professionals. You do not merely punish the trigger. You erase the hand, the eye, and the brain behind it. Minute 17. Suspected tunnel entrances and transporter hide sites are struck. One after another, hardened access points collapse under penetrating warheads. Secondary explosions begin to roll through at least 2 sites, suggesting stored missiles or fuel. Along the coast, maritime surveillance nodes go dark. The kill chain that fed the morning's attack is being systematically dismantled in real time. Minute 18. Surviving Iranian air defenses attempt localized response, but the jamming, standoff range, and compressed timing leave them chasing shadows. A few missiles launch blindly. None alter the outcome. American aircraft remain outside the most dangerous envelopes, using stand-in sensing and standoff punch exactly as designed. Minute 19. Battle damage assessment starts coming in. Multiple coastal radar sites destroyed, several mobile launcher areas burning, communications nodes severed. At least one major command facility near Bandar Abbas rendered inoperable. Keshem-based support infrastructure heavily damaged, reload capability disrupted. Now, the region's anti-ship strike network has not been inconvenienced. It has been purged. That's the word, purged. And the most brutal part is not the explosions. It's the message. Iran launched 11 missiles to prove American vulnerability. In 19 minutes, the United States used the attack itself to illuminate, locate, and begin dismantling the very architecture that made such a strike possible. Final tally? 11 launched, 11 destroyed in flight, 0 hits on the carrier, 0 mission kill. Multiple Iranian launch and support sites struck in immediate retaliation. The defensive battle lasted minutes. The strategic consequences lasted far longer. And think about the timescale here. From first launch detection to the final phase of the opening American counterstrike. We are talking about less than the length of a commute across a mid-sized city. Less than a workout. Less than a movie's first act. In that tiny slice of time, thousands of lives hung on machine speed, human discipline, and whether integrated systems could outperform political bravado. They did. But this scenario also teaches something deeper. Modern naval warfare in confined waters is no longer about the biggest hull or the loudest threat. It is about information dominance. Who sees first? Who shares faster? Who turns sensors into fire control and fire control into denial before the enemy can fire again? Hypersonic weapons compress decision time, yes. They do not eliminate layered defense. And they absolutely do not protect the attacker from what comes after a failed salvo. That is the lesson of Hormuz. A carrier in narrow water is vulnerable. A missile swarm is dangerous. 11 inbound weapons are not a joke. But if the defending force is trained, integrated, networked, and authorized to hit back without hesitation, the attacking side may discover the worst mistake in military planning: confusing speed with victory, because speed only matters if you survive long enough to enjoy it. In this fictional scenario, Iran believed 11 fast weapons could force a superpower to flinch. Instead, those launches became beacons. Beacons for Aegis, beacons for F-35s, beacons for Tomahawks, beacons for a response that moved from defense to elimination before the smoke from the first intercept had even drifted away. So here's the real question. Which decision was most critical? The launch order? The defensive sequencing? Or the immediate counter-strike against the kill chain? Debate below. Hit subscribe for in-depth military breakdowns.